This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Introduction. Despite being in the market for more than 4 decades, brand computers remain as expensive as they were during the last decade. Besides, they sometimes lack the specific specs that a customer is interested in. Thus, it is necessary to acquire explicit knowledge on how to build and customize a personal computer that is relatively affordable. This reflective treatise attempts to prove that it is really not hard to build your own cheaper computer than taking it somewhere to have it done by following these simple steps. Building a personal computer. Preparation and materials. To build a personal computer, it is necessary to choose the performance that you want by considering aspects such as the desired processor speed, memory, and storage capacity. This will ensure that you buy materials that will give you the desired performance level. This step is followed by getting the hardware and tools for the actual construction process. The hardware for a typical computer includes the processor, motherboard, RAM, random access memory, hard drive, video card, case, power supply, keyboard, and mouse. It is essential to research each hardware component before making a purchase. Fortunately, magazines such as Maximum PC, Custom PC, and PC World may give you an insight into the hardware. You may use a set of screwdrivers and a screw holder. Step-by-step instruction. Step 1. Verification. The first step involves opening the cases to verify if all the components are in a good state. Observing personal safety by wearing a protective glove when opening the case is necessary. Step 2. Power supply installation. Install the power supply by putting the motherboard into the case. Place the data and power lines in the backboard of the case. It is crucial to ensure that the power supply is appropriately attached to the motherboard. In addition, ensure that the power supply is stable enough to handle any power needed in the computer. After installing the power supply, you should ground yourself to avoid power shock from the electrostatic discharge. Step 3. Motherboard installation. Start this stage by unpacking the motherboard from its storage container. Place the motherboard on the workstation table. However, be considerate of the fact that the motherboard is highly conductive and should not be placed on a surface with electric currents. You may wish to add any particular elements to the motherboard to suit your needs. The components that may be added include the power regulator, double switch, and extra cables. Upon affixing the additional components onto the motherboard, properly install it in the case of the computer. Install the processor by accurately mounting it onto the motherboard via the plug spaces. There is always an arrow at the processor's base to guide the pairing process. To make the process of inserting the processor into the motherboard easier, you may need to carefully undo the socket for the CPU. It is important to note that the pairing process is smooth and should not depend on any force. Should you notice that it cannot slip right in, you should probably try to realign the pairing. After successfully pairing the pins, proceed to tighten the CPU socket by properly securing it on the arm that supports the case. You should then close the CPU socket and secure it on the support arm. Apply the thermal paste gently all over the surface of the mounted processor. Excessive paste might result in prolonged heat transfer and may make the CPU cooling process ineffective. Depending on the processor type, affixing the heatsink in the stock cooler might be necessary. The next step involves the installation of the RAM. Start by unfastening the latches and gently driving the RAM into the case until the holes in the handle match the holes. Each of the holes is keyed to fit in any case without any difficulty. After this, remove the backplate gently from the computer case by applying a consistent thrush, especially for the case that is not screwed. You may remove any unnecessary covering on the plate before returning it to its position. This stage is completed by securing the motherboard. The motherboard is locked by pushing it gently upwards against the backplate. Each back port on the motherboard should be fitted into the ports on the backplate to confirm that it is well positioned. Step 4. Installing extra cards and drives. In order to install graphic cards, start by removing the covers on the back panel around the PCI slot. The graphic cards may then be inserted through the cover opening. This might require slight bending of the card to fit into position. You may repeat the procedure for other PCI cards as required. In order to add any relevant drive, you should open the panel cover on the front of the case in the upper chamber. You may then insert the drive while making sure that the case and the drive are in an upward position. You should secure the drives when they do not fit perfectly in the panel by fastening them with screws on the left and right sides. The same procedure can be repeated for the hard disk while ensuring it is inserted in the right opening marked as hard disk. After inserting the hard drives and the hard disk, do not forget to attach the SATA cables that connect them to the motherboard. Ensure that each cable is inserted in the right port. Each port is appropriately marked, besides having different pairing holes. Interestingly, the SATA cables may be inserted in either direction since both ends have similar connectors. Step 5. The finished product. Start by connecting the power supply directly to the motherboard and video card port. You may proceed by connecting the power supply further to the different drives while adjusting the wire placement to ensure good airflow. Finally, you should install the air fan onto the motherboard and optimize its performance by following the arrow indicating the direction of rotation. Close the case and plug in the computer onto a monitor. You can then power the computer and install your preferred operating system. Conclusion. Making a person's computer involves 5 steps. The first step is verification, followed by installing the power supply. The third step involves motherboard installation, after which extra cards and other drives are mounted to complete the assembly. Apparently, it is really not that hard to build your own cheaper computer than taking it somewhere to have it done by following the above simple steps. If you want to find more works like this essay on how to build a computer, head over to ivpanda.com. It has a collection of samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects.